Hi everyone, Raphael Harry here, and you're listening to White Label American, a podcast where we hear stories from an immigrant or two, sometimes more. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of White Label American. Thank you all for joining us today, and to everyone who's been supporting us on Patreon, buying our merch, liking, subscribing, sharing our podcast out there. Big thank you to you all. And to new listeners, don't feel that you are left out. You can also do the same. You can subscribe to whitelabelamerican.com, or you can download our app at the Google Play Store. And please share with your friends and give us 5 stars wherever you're listening on. Yes, a 5-star review is very helpful. And if you're listening to the podcast on any other platform outside of the White Label American app, please allow the commercials play. That's also a form of support, because if you're not on Patreon, then you're going to hear a commercial play. So yes, that's also a form of support, because for indie podcasters like us, we if you allow the commercials play, that the sense that comes from those commercials, it gets to us. But if you skip over the commercials, then nothing comes to us. So we appreciate each and every one of you support. So keep it coming in, keep spreading the word. We appreciate that. So with that being said, I'm honored to have today's guest in the studio. It's life introduces people to your part, and you don't plan it sometimes, but sometimes it just happens. And thanks to my kids' school, I was lucky enough to see this brother that I have in the studio today, and I was like, it's cool to see another brother at this gathering that I attended. And I was like, gotta reach out immediately. And it worked out. And without much further ado, I introduce Marcus Haynes. He's an entrepreneur based in Brooklyn, the president and founder of RH1 Consulting, LLC, a human resources consulting firm. He helps companies improve their people strategies and processes so that they can scale more effectively. So I'm not going to give much into his background, because we're going to learn about it when he introduces us into his story. And there's a lot more to this brother that I was surprised to find out about when I read his bio. So welcome to the show, Marcus. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
I'm so honored to have you here. So thanks for joining us again. So let's begin at the very beginning. Have you ever wondered about the meaning behind your name, and if there's a story behind it?
Oh, there's a very interesting story behind it. My father was very pro, I guess I wouldn't say militant, but he was a very big advocate for the advancement of Black people, especially in the United States. And he decided when I was born that he wanted to name me after two of his heroes. So Marcus after Marcus Garvey, and Malcolm after Malcolm X.
Nice.
That's my middle name, Marcus Malcolm Haynes.
Beautiful names, and after great people.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Can't go wrong with that.
And that's one of the reasons that I ended up growing up in Africa, because he really believed in a lot of Marcus Garvey's philosophies.
All right, that was a little bit skipping ahead, but we'll get to that.
My apologies.
To that. So no. That's fine. You're the star here, so you don't need to apologize for that. So, do you mind? Wait, before I get to that question, do you know the meaning of the names?
Marcus,
yes,
and Malcolm.
Yes.
No, I don't actually know the meanings of the
Okay.
names. I just know that the origins and the meaning behind them, I suppose.
All right.
The significance.
Yeah. No, it's a great significance. So that works. I always just ask for the meaning behind the names.
That's a good
the
question.
meaning of the names, because yeah, there's so much I've learned from people's names. Like
Yes.
it always takes me to places that I never expected
All right.
to go. And so far, the leading is yeah. There's so many names that are tied to that have Arabic meanings that I wasn't expecting to find out. And
Right.
yeah, I've had people with Dominican heritage with names that are supposed that I'm more familiar with, that you would think are Russian,
Right.
still Arabic, and the ones that Swahili, and I wasn't too surprised by that, but but Swahili and Arabic, there's there's yeah, it's a little
Some
bit
roots.
close. There's some
Right.
roots there,
Yes.
and then names that I thought were Yoruba, they're like, actually it's Arabic. And it's like, oh.
Oh,
Then it
interesting.
starts to dawn on me that, yeah, because I lived in some Yoruba parts of Nigeria, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it was just the pronunciation that made it, yeah, that made me think it was Yoruba.
Makes all the difference.
So Arabic tends to be the yeah, it's the leading names on this podcast is Arabic. So
Fascinating.
yeah,
No, that's a good question. I'll have to
yeah.
look into that.
So yeah, that's why I love to ask for the meaning of names
Yeah.
and see where it takes me. So with that being said, let's jump to the next one. So can you introduce us to where you were born and what childhood was like for you?
I was actually born here in Brooklyn. My parents had me here. They already had my brother. My brother was 4 years older than me. They
Okay.
actually had him. He was born in Africa. He was born in Zambia. They came back here, had me. 4 years later, moved back to Africa.
Okay.
So I spent the majority of my childhood years in Africa. I lived in Zambia, lived in Kenya for a little bit, and South Africa. So I actually graduated from high school in Johannesburg.
Wow. So we've had guests from those three countries. I told one of them from Zambia because one of our super listeners is from Zambia.
Oh.
Shout out to Zenith. And
nice.
yeah, she actually sent a question for you.
Oh, really?
So when I get to that question, I'll let you know.
Please
So
do.
I'll see if you know the question because it kind of stands out. That's the only one I didn't prepare. So, but yeah, we've all three countries we have listeners from there, and I love both all three. I haven't been there, but there was one time some Kenyans actually said I was a tribe again. They said I used to remind them of one of their tribes. They're trying to adopt me. I was like, I'm fine. As far as you got good food there, I'm easy. I'm easy. It's easy for me to switch nationalities. Just have good food. I'm easy. That the food is where they
the
get me.
prerequisite.
Yeah. Before I settled down, it was women, but yeah,
Two very good reasons.
Yep. So, what was childhood like for you? Growing up in different countries on the continent? Because people. Sorry to cut you there, but people have this picture of like everywhere is the same on the continent, and those are eastern, southern African countries, and yes, there's similarities, but you must have seen some differences. So, what was that like for you?
And it was really interesting. I think that being so young when I moved there, it was all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And, we traveled a lot. We spent time in Europe and obviously came back here to North America. We visited the Caribbean where my parents are originally from. We visited Canada, and I could definitely see the differences in terms of lifestyle, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And I also was very aware, especially at that young age, of things that other countries had that we didn't have growing up. And especially since most of my relatives lived in North America and the Caribbean and in Europe. And it was very clear what the differences were. But sometimes it was tough because we sometimes felt a little bit isolated from the rest of my family, my cousins and aunts and uncles, because we were the only ones who lived in Africa. and
Oh, okay.
so we would maybe come back and visit them once a year for during the summer or Christmas time or whatever the case may be. But it was very noticeable, and like I said, as a kid, you're very impressionable,
Yeah.
especially when you realize that, oh well, you have HBO over here, but we don't have that in Lusaka. And just having access to just basic things.
Hmm.
Uh, Obviously, we had everything that we needed, but of course, there's a lot of excess in the North America especially, and we didn't have excess.
Mm.
We had one television channel. We didn't have access to all these gadgets and so on and so forth, and even just things like new fashion. It was just very different. But it's as I've gotten older, and after I left, I've really started to appreciate our lifestyle, and I have no regrets about it. I'm really thankful that our parents exposed us to that and took us there, and just the life lessons and the experiences that I had are just invaluable, and I hope to kind of pass that on to my son. But it was people always ask me, they're like, what was it like? And because especially here in the United States, people have a certain view of Africa
Yes.
and what they see on TV and in documentaries
Hmm.
and in movies, and it's very different from how it's portrayed in the media. And people ask me like, "Oh, did you live in a house? Did you have lions in your backyard?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you've probably gotten similar questions. And yeah, no, it's
Uh,
yeah, we weren't we weren't primitive.
no.
We had a really good lifestyle. Did you speak English there? I'm like, yeah, of course you spoke English. Um, so, but yeah, no, I have a greater appreciation for my childhood
Mm.
now that I'm older, and now that I've lived here. I came back here to go to college. I miss it and I appreciate it, and I'm really thankful that our parents moved us there.
Awesome. So, one question I forgot to ask before I jump to one of my favorite questions that I always ask every guest is in so I'm guessing Zambia you lived in Lusaka, right?
Correct.
And in Kenya, what city?
Kisumu.
Kusumu. Okay. I don't think I've heard that city. Oh, my super fan probably must have mentioned that Kisumu. Sounds familiar.
It's very close to Uganda, very close
Oh,
to the
okay.
Ugandan
Uganda
border.
border. Okay. Kisumu. And you mentioned Johannesburg in South Africa. So, all right. Yeah, because that's one way I like, one way I tackle the picture of, I try to change that picture of, that people have of like, Africa is one country or it's all the same. I'm like, no, you have to recognize the cities, the places and give people their recognition too,
Right.
So, this next question is a tough one for
Okay.
many people, and I get it. And even for me, if you ask me this question, it's also tough. But it depends on what time of the day you ask me this question. So that you will get an answer. But it's fine if it's not it doesn't have it's not a question that you have to have the perfect answer to. So, being that you grew up in different countries, cities, and in different countries in Africa, um, where would you consider your favorite childhood memory to come from?
Are you talking about the location or just a specific memory?
Up to you. I'll leave it up to you. And if you like, I can give you a caveat. You can decide to pick one from each country also, if that would be easier for you.
That is a good question. I would say I think Lusaka was very special. I spent the most time there
Okay.
and definitely had the most memories from there.
All right.
Um, I think one thing that I actually still miss is going to the national parks. That was something that we did very regularly. My family, we were avid anglers. So my father loved to fish, and so did
Mm-hmm.
my mother. And they taught us how to fish, and that was our family hobby. And that's something we did on a very regular basis. You know, I was explaining to my wife the other day about how a lot of people here in the U.S. they have a certain common vacation spots or vacation activities, and ours was just so different, and it was great. It was fishing. It was something I probably learned how to fish before I learned how to ride a bike. And that
Two
is
things I cannot do.
That's okay though. That's okay though.
Yep. So I know who I'm coming to now.
Well, we love to fish, and and we would go on these safaris, but they were not your conventional safaris that most people would envision.
Mhm.
But that was just our lifestyle. Like I said, this is something we would do on a regular basis. We didn't go to Disney World. This is something a lot more that I found a lot more fascinating and compelling and educational and memorable. Yeah, so that is probably one of my favorite memories from Zambia. I think from Kenya, I spent time. I basically lived on a farm, a very rural environment. This little village that my friends owned. My friends' parents had owned, and I learned how to live on a farm and learn how to feed the livestock and collect water. And
Oh, sorry. What city was that?
this is Kisumu.
Oh,
This is just
Kisumu,
outside of
sorry,
Kisumu. Yeah, this is just outside of Kisumu. This is in
Zambia.
Kenya. Yeah,
Oh, in Kenya.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really interesting. It was very eye opening for me and very educational for me as well. And learning how to, if you wanted to take a hot shower, you had to boil your water first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Did you use the little boiler ring, I think it's a little boiler ring they call it?
no, we boiled it on the fire.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's more hardcore.
Yes. And just being exposed to some things that I'd never been exposed to before. I was never exposed to flying cockroaches.
Oh, man, that's one of my nemesis. I can't stand those guys.
And the cockroaches are bad enough, but when they fly, it's a whole different, different
even
ballgame.
right now, you give me the chills. They fly right in here now. But I leave this studio. I'm like, all right,
absolutely.
it's all yours. Take it.
One of the worst things in life.
Take it. Take it. It's all yours. Man, that's one reason why I couldn't stay in Texas.
Oh, they have them there too.
I got the tiny ones, but man, I just run to the giant Target or Walmart and go buy them like 3-4 cans of Raid and
absolutely.
come back spraying the whole apartment like I was Terminator. 2 cans of Raid. Oh
yeah, those things are awful.
Hate them.
Well, and these were huge too.
They were huge.
So that was really interesting. And then moving to Johannesburg, it was an interesting time because I was there essentially after apartheid officially ended, and we were connected very closely to the movement to get Nelson Mandela elected. My father worked for the United Nations, and he was connected to a lot of people in other sectors of the United Nations, as well as people kind of on the front line. We were very close with Walter Sisulu. I don't know if you know who Walter Sisulu is.
Sounds familiar. Probably.
He was
I've read about him.
He was basically the Nelson Mandela's right hand, and when Nelson Mandela got elected, Walter Sisulu became the vice president.
Oh, okay. That's probably why it's probably someone who there's too many names.
Probably heard the name, right? Yeah,
I probably heard his name, yeah.
So he was very active in the ANC, and so we were very close to his son and his daughter-in-law, because she also worked for the United Nations.
Okay.
And, got a chance to meet Nelson Mandela, went to his house.
Oh, wow.
For lunch. Really, very special moment. And also had the opportunity to work for the UN. That was essentially my first job. After I graduated from high school, there was some time before I had to come here to go to college, because that was kind of always the plan. And my father spoke to a friend of his who ran a special mission for the United Nations that was created to oversee the elections.
In South Africa.
in South Africa.
Okay.
And so he asked her, she was the director of this mission, and asked her, "Hey, do you have something my son can do while he's waiting to go to college?" And she offered me this job, and I said, "Great, I'll take it." I thought I was going to be in the mailroom or something. And I ended up having an office. She gave me this job in the finance department.
Wow.
Where I was responsible for collecting and keeping track of the receipts and expenses of the employees of that particular mission. So, because as diplomats, they're tax exempt,
Okay.
so they get reimbursed.
Yeah.
So I'm basically working in accounting.
Wow.
I had an office and an administrative assistant.
Wow.
I'm 17 years old, and I didn't. Yeah, it was a little overwhelming, but that was pretty special
It is.
for a first job.
Yeah. Wow. So what was that like meeting Nelson Mandela?
Oh, it was great. It was overwhelming, but he was just so kind and generous, and met Winnie as well, and it was really, really special. I think, like I said, looking back on it now, I kind of, like I said, just the gravitas of the moment might have been a little bit missed on me because being that young.
Yeah.
But I obviously, I was old enough to understand what was going on, understand, the history here and the significance of meeting this man.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a very, very special moment to answer your question.
Hey. Well, I'm glad I've shaking hands with you, because now I'll be like, yeah, I've shook hands with somebody who met Nelson Mandela. So it's kind of transferred to me. So, it's
Absolutely.
yeah, because when you're younger, it doesn't you don't understand a lot of things, and he didn't show up. I don't think he showed. He came to University of Ibadan. He was supposed to. Um, when right after Abacha died, and for the matriculation, no, was it matriculation ceremony of was it 99? Yeah, 99. And that's when I finished high school, and there was a gentleman. Well, I won't call him a gentleman. He wasn't considered a gentleman by us, but he was one of the guys who benefited from Abacha's regime, and he had a lot of contracts under the military, and he was supposed to supply. His claim to fame was that he did not supply helmets for the military Nigerian troops in Liberia and I think Sierra Leone. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Sierra Leone.
Right.
But instead of supplied motorcycle helmets instead of military helmets. That was the allegation.
Right.
But he made money off that, and he lived in my neighborhood. Like, he had a huge plot of land, like 3 or 4 mansions within the compound, and the rumors were that it was for each wife, kind of thing. So he rotated which house he slept in. So he wasn't liked in Ibadan. And when there was one time there was protest against Abacha after the whole every time there was protest about over elections, when youth stepped out and the army killed a bunch of students, and it was claimed that that guy was the person that they were protecting. So with the word, when University of Ibadan had announced that Nelson Mandela will be the special guest for the matriculation ceremony,
Right.
with General Abdul Salam, who took over, who was in power now after General Abacha's sudden death. A lot of students were agitated when they found out that this guy planned to show up, because a lot of elites wanted to rub shoulders, like, oh, Nelson Mandela will be around. I want to take photos too. Everybody want to show
Of
up
course.
now. So he actually came. The dude showed up, but I don't think Mandela. I don't think Mandela was there, because a lot of us left school. and
Mm.
showed up there. And by the time I arrived on the university campus, they had already burnt his car. Yeah, this guy that I'm talking about, his car had been destroyed, and we were all most of the students that I met, they all had souvenirs of his limousine had been burnt down, and uh, it was the first time I saw what a bulletproof glass had looked like when you had destroyed it, and people were like, "Oh, look at it! What it looks like! The chunk looked like yeah, this." So it was those were souvenirs, but they destroyed his limousine. But the armies saved him, like got him away, like
Right.
yeah. But so people destroyed his car. Like you still had to, you showed up here, really? You got students killed when Abacha was in power, but you think because Nelson Mandela is going to be here,
Exactly.
you want to show your face here. So people took their anger out on him. So he was lucky that the army got to him
The audacity.
first. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh man, I missed my chance to see Nelson Mandela face to face. But that was that was like, I was like, because yeah, we were running from school and like, let's get down there, and then we were like, why there's smoke? Why there's smoke here? Like, oh man,
They're burning a car.
like it was like it's like sirens and all that, and like man, and then we had like there was a mini protest and riot. They call it a riot. Well, it wasn't a riot. It was just
A protest.
yeah, it was just like the protest. I won't call it a protest. It was just like the wrong guy showed up. Why are you here? Why are you here? Like, you got students killed in the past,
Right.
and then you want to show your face because do you even know who Nelson Mandela is? You're not supposed to be around him.
Right.
Oh,
The
yeah,
nerve.
yeah. So yeah, so I was like, man. So even for that moment, I didn't even think about Nelson Mandela. I was just like, oh man, I would have loved to throw a stone at that guy too. Throw a stone at that guy. But yeah, we were all teenagers then, and
Right.
was later I was like, oh man, but how would Nelson Mandela have showed up if we're attacking this other guy?
Right. Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to be around that.
Yeah, security would have been like, yeah, I don't think it's safe because the students are agitated.
Yeah.
And all that. But looking back, like yeah, everybody was angry. We had to let the anger out. And as far as the wrong person showed up before Nelson Mandela, it's like, yeah,
That's
so,
completely understandable.
yeah. So let's we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to touch on you in college and your time in your official time as an adult in the United States and jumping into your career. So we'll be right back. Hi everyone. We've made it 2 years, and who would have thought so? So let's go further and make it 3, make it 4, make it 5, make it 6, who knows? 20. But we can't do this without your support. So join us on Patreon at patreon.com/white label American pod or linktree.com/white label American. Go there and you'll see our Patreon link, and you can join us for as low as $3. We have bonus content, we have bonus materials. There's so much juice over there that we don't release to the public, and yeah, you can contribute in making this podcast better. You can send questions, you can send your ideas, and also there's a lot of new things that are coming. The announcements are made on Patreon first because we have to, take care of people who help make this podcast possible. So you can be the one to make this podcast what you want it to be. Come join us on Patreon and make it what you would like to see. Join us, make it fantastic. Keep the 5 stars coming in, keep the love coming in. Thank you for the privilege of your company. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us, everyone. So, my brother Mark, I forgot to ask one question at the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Your parents are from the Caribbean.
Yes.
But the Caribbean is made up of multiple countries.
Yes.
So what country are your parents from?
My father was from Guyana.
Oh, lovely.
And my mother was from St. Kitts.
St. Kitts, wow. Yeah, St. Kitts. I remember there was a sprinter from St. Kitts. That's how I got to know of St. Kitts.
There was a sprinter. I can't remember his name, though. But yes, you're
I'm
right.
trying to remember his name.
I could picture him right now, actually.
There was a period where I used to be on top of my 100 meters sprint before.
Oh, yeah, I just can't remember
before
his name.
Usain Bolt got me to switch to Jamaica. Immediately, like that guy was just, it was too much. I was
He
just
was
like, you know what,
special.
I'm from Jamaica right now. It was just like, after the 100 meters over there, you switch back to your country. Like, just like, that's it.
Honorary Jamaican. That's completely understandable.
I had a shipmate in the Navy. She was born in Guyana. I have to reach out to her and see if she's out of the Navy. She might be willing to come on the podcast.
There you go.
And yeah, I think she was the first person from Guyana that I met. And I will later meet a gentleman also in the Navy from Guyana. And he made the best beef patty that I ever had. And that's why we became friends.
Another valid reason.
Because it was like he was always wondering. I was like, yeah, man. So wait, you happen to have you made some big beef patty? Like I think that was around the first time I started accepting it's called beef patty. Because one of my good friends from Trinidad and Tobago, she took me to a Caribbean store at Norfolk, and that was, I think, the first time we actually got into a serious quarrel. Because we got to this Caribbean store, and I'm a sucker when it comes to them parties. That's like one of the ways to get me.
Oh, absolutely.
If Verena had known, she probably would have tied me down much earlier. That's one of my weaknesses. So I walk in there, and we had gotten everything. I was like, oh, this store looked like, this is like my people, okay. And I'm about to check out, and I was like, oh, meat pie. Oh, that's what we call it back home.
Yeah.
Meat pie. And she said, what, that's not meat pie. That's beef patty.
Right.
Is it chicken? That can be chicken. I say, what patty? Huh? It's meat pie. So, that's not meat pie. And we are standing there, and that's how an argument broke out. I'm like, you people don't know. What are you people talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. What the hell wrong with you people? It's meat pie.
Right.
Now, and when she gets mad, the accent starts coming out.
Of course.
And she starts cussing me out. And she has this way she tilts her hand, and her hand starts up like, what's wrong with your hand? She gets mad. And she's the one that drove me there. And she's like, you want to walk home?
Oh, yeah. You can't mess around.
I love you, Aria. She was fantastic, man. She's one of my best sisters in the Navy. People used to think we were dating, but no, she was just that cool with me. But oh man, I was a nuisance, man. I was a nuisance. I was like, what is wrong with these people? Why are you all calling it beef what? This is meat pie. What is wrong? How can people be calling this? Yeah. So you mean oh Lord. And I went down and told my fellow Nigerian friend, I think it was the guy in UK, and I told another one in Canada. Can you imagine people from Trinidad and apparently Caribbeans be calling it patty instead of meat pie? What is wrong with these people? Meanwhile, I bought like 5.
Because you recognize.
I'm like, you people call it the wrong name, but I'm still buying a lot. And then next time I'm back in the store, I'm buying like 10. Like, man, it was good though. It was really good. You both still call it meat pie.
So what are the differences? So I'm familiar with meat pie, but my experience with meat pie in Africa was the meat is more chopped than ground. Is that what you're familiar with, or you are used to ground meat?
As far as the shape is by the shape. That's all.
But I mean, but the actual meat inside.
Inside, yeah. I know some have
chopped,
ground,
or is it ground?
Some have chopped. If it looks like on the outside, that's all I go by.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, as far as they all have that shape.
Yeah.
Yep. Meat pie. I'm a simple guy. Looks like that. That's it. That's all I'm going with.
Nice.
And I bite it. Tastes good.
That's all that
now,
matters.
There's some people who got me like that because back in Nigeria those days, the big guy, you see, that must be some good meat pie, and they would just put meat pie on the right meat pie sign. Because it was before we had fast food places everywhere,
right?
So, you show up, wow, meat pie, wow, and it's so big, and it was like 20 naira. Now it's probably like 200 naira. So it's like, just straight 20 naira, you grab it. Oh, if I look around, none of your friends are around. Oh man, let me go hide in one corner and eat this joyously, not sharing. Man, you take like 2 quick bites. Ah, where's the meat? Where's this meat? So okay, there's some people they'll put the meat at the middle, so you have to bite. So you take like 4 bites. Man, that was cabbage only. Where
That's
is
criminal.
where, you had to go back and complain, Madam. Where's the meat now? There's no meat in this one. It's just cabbage and carrots. Then why do you call it meat pie?
Right.
Man, they got me like that a few times because I would just see the size. Oh, and they won't tell you that it's.
Absolutely awful. I hate when that happens.
Ah man, they got me, man. That was yeah.
We've all been gotten like that.
They
Yeah.
got me a lot of times like that. It was usually when I was much smaller back in those days. You want to go complain, the madam will stand up and like God punish you, and then run away. She has her son nearby who's like, I can't fight this one, but you know what? You're stupid. Then you run. I won't come here. I won't buy anything from you people again. You people, man, these people. That 20 naira was like the last 20 naira I could have. I wanted to spend that 20 naira on the best meat pie.
Right.
And now I spend on the worst meat pie.
That's criminal.
There's no refunds.
That's terrible.
But anyway, let's come back to you. So you come to United States for your college. How did you decide where you go to college, and where did you go to college?
I went to SUNY Cortland, upstate New York. It's about 4 hours from here, 4.5 hours from here, and really small school. And I had applied to several schools on the East Coast. A lot of them in New York, but mostly on the East Coast. I was at the time I wanted to major in biology. I was looking to for a career in veterinary medicine. So that was something I'd always wanted to do, is be a vet, because I love animals. I grew up around a lot of animals. And so I was looking for schools that had really good programs that would kind of lead me along that path. And so Cortland was the first school to accept me. And I think at the time, this is pretty much before the internet, I didn't have a lot of opportunities to research different colleges. All I had was pamphlets and booklets and things of that nature. And I think I was just so excited to get accepted there, because I had a lot of, I guess, doubts and insecurities, growing up in Africa and being educated under a different system. I had doubts, and this is just my personal issue, I suppose, in terms of my confidence to be able to get accepted into one of these schools, because I thought, oh well, will they accept my grades? Because it's a completely different curriculum.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up taking the SATs at the American Embassy in Johannesburg, and I studied for it on my own. And I was talking to my cousins who were back here, and they all have, obviously they're learning different things, and their curriculum is very different than mine, and I felt they were better equipped. They had opportunities and tutors and opportunities to prepare themselves better for this test, for the SATs. And I remember my uncle came to visit from here, and he brought me one of these Barron's books to study for the SATs, and I studied it on my own, and then took it to the embassy. So that being said, that's why I was a little insecure about whether, not very confident. I'm unsure as to whether I would get into one of these schools. But Cortland was the first one to accept me, and I just took it. I said, "Oh, this is perfect. Yeah, I'm going there." And then after I already kind of committed, that's when all their offers started coming in. I was like, "Oh, I could have gone there too. Oh man, that place is nice. I have a good sports team there." But I have no regrets. I mean, it was such a good experience. I met some of my closest friends there. That's where I really started to play volleyball and take it really seriously. And like I said, most of my closest friends are people that I met there, and my teammates. So yeah, it was a great experience for me.
Awesome. So, since you've mentioned volleyball,
Yeah.
I'll have to go to a volleyball question, and I think you know where it's from. So, with your moving between countries, how did you maintain your ability to play volleyball? And where did you begin where did your introduction to volleyball begin from? And also, another part of it is, so I guess the other part I would save the other side of it. So, your introduction to volleyball, where did it start from?
It started in Zambia. My father used to play recreationally, and I remember my brother and I, when we were very young, used to go watch him play. I think he played like in a league once a week, and that was my first introduction to it. But ironically, that I didn't really learn the game until I got to college,
Hmm.
because in terms of playing it at a certain level and actually learning how to improve my skills at that particular sport, because I played so many other sports growing up.
Yeah.
I played a lot of soccer. Soccer was probably my main sport. I was a goalkeeper, and
Okay.
that's what I thought I would actually play in college.
Yeah.
And I played cricket.
Oh, wow.
I was very good at cricket. I played squash. I played all these sports
Oh,
for
squash. I haven't
for my
had
sport.
squash in a long time.
Yeah, I love squash. I played all those sports for my high schools. Um, so I played a little bit of rugby. Um, I participated in track and field, and so yeah, I was better at all of those things.
Hmm.
And but when I got to college, I realized that the if I wanted to try out for the soccer team, it would have been a huge commitment in terms of practice, traveling, and I had taken on really serious course load that which probably didn't make much sense at the time, being a freshman coming in from a different country and just adapting to college life.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't wise to take on such a heavy course load my freshman year. But then I realized, so a friend of mine that I had met on campus, I said, "Hey, listen, there's these tryouts for volleyball." I said, "Well, let me go try it out, 'cause I know a little bit about volleyball." And I met some very close friends who were on the team at the time, and they kind of took me under their wing. This one particular gentleman, his name is JJ. JJ was a seasoned vet, and he saw the potential, and he kind of took me under his wing, and he said, "Hey, listen, I see you got some skills and you got this raw ability, so let me see if I can foster that." And that's where it began.
Wow. Awesome. So, staying with your freshman year, when you arrived at college, what was your what would you consider your welcome to college, welcome, which is unofficially your, because I know you've been visiting America, since you were already born here, but this is like your unofficial welcome to America moment slash welcome to college moment.
Oof. Um, I think it was. Oof. I would say it was probably going to my first college party. I think I was a little surprised at how many people were drinking alcohol. Because it's funny because it seemed as though people were rebelling
Mm,
against however they grew up, and they were just really embracing that newfound freedom.
yeah.
And it was kind of foreign to me because, and this is something like I said, I hope to be able to teach my son is just perspective, because we were exposed to alcohol at a very young age,
Hmm.
and it was never forbidden, but it was my parents kind of educated us about alcohol and the pluses, the minuses, the dangers of it, but it was never like forbidden.
Mm,
So we never had that urge to, once we had that freedom, once I got to college, once we left home, to like all of a sudden I gotta get drunk. Like I didn't appeal to me. So I think that was very eye opening for me to see people passed out on the floor and throwing up and just really just overdoing it. And like I said, it was never something that really appealed to me. Like, okay, I mean, yes, I drank and I still drink now, but I still don't have that mentality of like, oh, I gotta get wasted.
Just go,
Yeah.
to go, to let loose. Just
Right.
go wild, like it's the end of the world.
Right. It's just it was just unnecessary. It's like
Actually, you remind me of our friend Muriel, and there was this thing she said about, she grew up in Switzerland, and
yes.
she said when she saw something similar to what you witnessed, and it's like people did not get to be teenagers, and it's when they get to college, it's like they're living the life that people in other places got to live as
Yes.
teenagers.
Yes.
So they've experienced that, and they are like, what's happening here? When they witness people here going through that, and it reminds me of when I was stationed in the Middle East. When you're outside of continental America, the drinking age in America is 21, right?
Right.
And overseas, you're still in the military, but it becomes 18. So I was in Bahrain, and every ship that was coming from America, they stopped there at Fifth Fleet. And when a ship is coming in, all of us after work we disappear from base because they start setting up beer taps around the base. And these people have been on the water for 3 months, so they're gonna go wild. And
Right.
all them kids, when they come out, they're like, "What, beer? Oh, it's like they've never seen beer before."
Right.
But it's like that freedom that I couldn't have in America. I'm having it technically in America, but overseas,
Right.
and they just go wild, and you see them passing out on base, and it's like, and it now even extends to outside of the uniform of just like it extends to just outside of drinking, because like some go crazy, like buying, just blowing money, buying like 3 laptops, buying a lot of stuff. And so I had one of my chiefs tell me like he joked. It used to be a joke. Like you just watch them. You see them running to the commissary, just be buying stuff, and you're like, but you live on the ship. Where you going? Where you going to keep all this stuff?
Right.
And then some come to their senses, and the smarter ones will like ship it home, because we have a post office on base, so you can you can ship it home if you have enough time to figure out. But if you're buying all that stuff, at the end of the day, post office is already closed. So except some trustworthy shipmate who's gonna be willing to do the whole shipping for you, because guess what? They're thieves in the Navy. Thieves in humans. Humans are humans. So
right.
before you know that, people are like, "Oh, I'm struggling, man. I got this one is throwing up." And the dark side of it is, some of the sexual assault cases. That's when it starts to happen too. I'll never forget. We just finished playing a soccer game, and myself and my good friend, he's Senegalese. He was like one of the tallest people on the base. So anytime we walked on the streets, there were people always coming up to him like he was some celebrity. And they were like, I saw you on TV. I saw you on TV. And this idiot will be signing autographs. So we're talking to a lieutenant from the Marines. We played against their team, and we're all talking together. And this young girl comes from nowhere, young lady comes from nowhere, and just jumps on me from behind. Like, "Hey, I know you." And her words were all slurred. And I was like, "Who the hell are you?" "I know you. Well, take me back to the ship." And all that. I was like, "Girl, I've never been on your ship." But I looked around, there was nobody she was with. She was totally wasted. And the lieutenant just whispered that she is lucky she was not on the Marine base, and she's lucky that she found you two, because I know you two are not the wrong type.
Right.
So he was like, "I'm on my way out anyway, so y'all make sure she gets she gets home safe. And he left, and I was like, man, we can't. It's not like we can just leave her here to lie down and walk away because I'm with like the tallest person in your base. Everybody knows. So
Exactly.
if something wrong happens, they can be like, she'll be like,
Mm,
I saw this tall black dude, and she can describe him. So
right.
we had to carry her to the security checkpoint. And by the time we were about to approach the checkpoint, she saw our sheep people and, and she just ran and left us. And they were all, and I was like, wow, just look at, I was like, it was,
Unbelievable.
but they just go wild. And yeah, I think part of seeing something like that too may have calmed me down too, because there was a time I was also going crazy because they were providing free drinks for me. So there was one time I was like, yeah, okay, you bring the drinks, I'll be drinking. So that may have also calmed me down because the free drinks might be coming, but there's a way you be like, yeah, free drinks, but let me do the Omar Simpson backing up, and I run away. Yeah, I like to run away. It's safe,
Right.
So yeah, that
Absolutely.
yeah, it's I appreciate that from my wife too. She's from Germany, and I noticed that in many places it's good to, it's like our friend Mira said, they got to be teenagers, they made mistakes, but they got to let a lot of things out, and
Right.
it's not when you're now an adult and it's like, oh, I'm trying to relive that teenage years.
Right.
It's like, I'm trying because I never got to experience that,
Right. Right.
and it's not really helpful to an individual. So
I agree.
yeah, don't hide it from your kids. You're not helping them, you know. But you can introduce them in a healthy manner and
Right.
do that to them. You know. So yeah,
Absolutely.
there's so many ways to get there. So we don't have to be 24/7 strict. I actually met a couple in Texas. This is the last one I'll say.
Mm.
Just before I left Texas, when I was living there, I was at a bar one night, and a gentleman who I ended up striking conversation with, and it was a few minutes after talking to him that I realized that there was someone who I thought was a young woman, and he was like, "Oh, that's my daughter. She's 16." And I was like, "What? Whoa! What the hell is 16-year-old doing at the bar?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, in Texas, you can 16-year-old can be at the bar if they are with their parent." So he was introducing her to alcohol, but in a safe way. By yeah, you can come, but it's like showing her that it's not what you should think it is, but here's how it should be.
Right.
So you can come with me, and I'm here, and and I was like, okay, So then I didn't really put two and two together because I was like, what? The father bringing the daughter to the bar, that kind of. But it was when I would go home, I started thinking about like, you know what? That was quite responsible because it was later I realized that she wasn't just the only one that he brought. He brought her and a friend.
Mm.
So that's why he could talk to me.
Mm.
Because I think her friend was at the restroom at first when I noticed her, and then the friend came back. And
Right.
so she was chatting with her friend and was like, yeah, I buy them drinks. I don't have to be like 24/7 staying. What are people talking about? And all that. No, let them be. But drink responsibly. And it's like,
Supervised drinking.
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So you said your initial goal was biology, but we know now you're not in the biological field.
Right.
So how did that change start to come about? What led to that?
My father planted the seed. He visited. Him and my mother visited me in college my freshman year, and he said to me before he left after that visit. He said, "Hey, listen, I'm always going to support you in anything you want to do, and I know you've always wanted to be a vet, but if you ever decide to go in a different direction, I think you'd really excel at one of the social sciences." And he said, yeah, sociology, psychology, something like that. And I said, no problem, Dad. I got you. I hear you. But I'm going to stick with this because this is what I want to do. But the following semester, I took Psych 101. and it was like an epiphany. And it was exactly, it just fit. And it was something I was really interested in, and I just after taking that class, I ended up switching my major and getting a degree in industrial and organizational psychology. But I thanked him after that because he planted that seed, and I was like, yeah, he was right. He was right because who knows you better than your father? And he just knew my personality. He knew my disposition. He just knew my character traits, and he knew that I would excel in that kind of space. It took me a while to decide on what area of psychology I wanted to really pursue.
Yeah.
And I didn't really decide that until my senior year when I was like, okay, I'm going to concentrate on an IO psych. And then that's how I transitioned that into a career in human resources.
Wow. So wait, IO psych. I don't think I've ever heard IO psych before.
Industrial and organizational psychology is the study of the interaction between humans and the work environment.
Oh.
So that's what human resources is the foundation of human resources.
Okay. Wow.
And also another thing that falls into that is ergonomics.
Yeah.
That also falls into IO psych.
Oh. All right. It's cool. Wow. Now psychology 101. That's one of the most powerful courses.
Yeah.
Because I still have my psych 101 book.
Loved it.
How I think I was I was too strong-headed on the immigrants must I must stick to the business course. Otherwise, because that professor I had, I was like, man, that class was one of my most fun classes.
There you go.
Because I was like, man, what? It was like everything. I was like, what?
Everyone finds that interesting. I mean, it's just you can use it. It just applies to everything that we do in our being.
Because other classes, before the class was even the term was over, I was already online. How much can I get for this textbook? Bye. But Psych 101 was the first one. I was like, man, this textbook, I'm saving it.
Yeah,
it's going with me everywhere. I love this textbook.
Absolutely.
It's
relevant.
And you also reminded me of a professor I met in one of the classes I took in while I was in the Middle East. It was actually it was HR. Yeah, it was a HR course, right? But his dream was to get a PhD in physics. So he was a very interesting guy. I have to look up his name again. And it was human resources. Yeah, it was human resources. I'm trying to And I used to always wonder why are you crazy about physics? Like, I thought you human resources, but now it makes sense. Hearing you now, it just brought him to mind. And, seeing that blend of human resources and physics, but he used to always be like, because one day just hearing him talk one day, I was like, wait, I thought you work in human resources, you teach human resources. What is your dream exactly? And he was like, I would love to teach physics, actually. I was like, what?
People are multidimensional.
Yep. So I have to skip forward a little bit, but how did you officially choose? Because you weren't in Brooklyn. You were you went to school upstate, right?
Yes.
And how did you decide Brooklyn? How did you end up in Brooklyn as your home? And you're doing business in Brooklyn. So when did you decide to make Brooklyn your home?
Well, after I graduated from college, I lived just briefly in Long Island, and then I ended up getting a job, my first, I guess, official job in Princeton, New Jersey. And I worked for Hilton Hotels for several years. That was my first job in the human resources field. And I worked there for several years and then moved up to Secaucus after I got promoted, still with Hilton, and lived in Secaucus for almost 13 years. And when I met my wife, my now wife, she was living in Manhattan at the time, and we were looking to move in together, and we looked at all the different options in the boroughs. And Brooklyn was the first apartment that we looked at that we both really liked and really liked the area, and that's how I ended up here.
I always say on the podcast, Brooklyn is the best, man.
There
Brooklyn is still number one.
you go.
I know my boy Corey is going to be like, ah, dang it, Queens. We got a rivalry.
And it was nice to come full circle,
Yep.
being born here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, I have to step away from. Oh no! Before I step away from your career, two quick questions.
Yeah.
How do you balance work and family life?
Good question. That's very difficult. I have to be very efficient with my time, and I try to, especially with my son, I try to make sure I try not to work when I'm with him, because it's very easy to kind of get caught up in that with checking emails and so on and so forth. So I really try to not, at least, especially not in front of him, checking emails and answering phone calls and things of that nature. But no, it's an ongoing challenge to try to do that, and obviously spend some quality time with my wife as well. And yeah, it's very challenging. But I think I have to be efficient with my time, and scheduling is critical. So every minute of the day is accounted for.
Awesome. So, with all the places that you've lived in, they're all a part of you. What lessons did you take away from living in all these places, and how have they helped you into creating your own business and going forward? How have they helped you into how have they helped you into creating your own business, and yeah, and moving forward, what would be the advice you give to someone who's um looking to go into your line of work?
I think, I guess, the cliche is to kind of follow your passion,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's really important. I think that people will say, well, they, I was pushed into this direction and this type of career and so on and so forth, or I want to get into this career for money or whatever the case may be. And that's, you have your different motivations, but I think that if we don't have people who are passionate, there are going to be a lot of areas and industries that fall short, like teachers, for example,
Yep.
Artists, people that these people follow their passion. If they're not passionate, they're not going to be effective in what they do. And I don't want someone teaching my son who's not passionate about what they do. But my experiences have really helped me in my career as a human resources consultant, because I've learned to adapt and understand and appreciate people's differences and be curious about people, and just curious about learning. So, a lot of my friends, this is a running joke with my friends about how they feel that they're being interrogated because I ask so many questions. I used to, before I got married, a lot of women I dated used to feel that they were being interrogated because that's my happy place, is asking people questions and learning about them and observing. That is, because there's active listening, and there's asking probing questions, and then there's just observation. And I teach that because that's one of the things I teach my clients when I'm teaching people how to interview, is to pay attention to all the details, because it's not just about what questions you ask. It's about what you're observing and how, looking at people's facial expressions and their body language and how they're dressed, how they present themselves, how they articulate themselves. It gives you an idea as to who they are, because you're hiring a person. You're not hiring a software engineer. You're hiring a person.
Yes.
Who knows how to program. So, just learning those experiences growing up really kind of taught me and kind of built this foundation of curiosity and adaptability.
Awesome. So I could talk to you all day about the HR world, and I'll probably have to do that again because I think there's a lot more I have to ask you.
Okay.
But that will have to be a part two. I'll have to arrange that. And there's more I would like to ask you about concerning parenting. Being a father and a dad with a multicultural background, and also raising a child in a multicultural family.
Yeah.
So yes, so I'm manifesting a part two because you're an awesome guest.
I'm invited.
Yes, automatically invited. So
thank you.
with that being said, we have to go into some fun questions, and
Okay.
we've already been dealing with fun questions, but we have to step away from the career side of it.
Okay.
So everyone who gets to be on the podcast is automatically considered a dancer. And we know that you played professional volleyball. Well, I've got some volleyball questions I should have asked too, but before pause the dancing. Pretend you didn't hear that dancing side. Let me ask this professional volleyball question that I forgot to ask.
Yeah.
So, you played professional volleyball. Um, where did you play professionally?
I play for a club that's based here in New York, and we traveled all over the country. Traveled to Canada, traveled the Caribbean, played in a lot of international tournaments. I played different formats: indoor, grass, beach.
So, is there a league here?
There's several leagues. And some, there are varying levels of importance, varying levels of commitment, varying levels of rewards and monetary rewards and so on and so forth, accolades.
Okay.
So
I'm just not used to volleyball on TV. So like in Europe or Asia, like when I was in Bahrain, just through I was at a pub watching football as usual, or soccer. We call it football here.
right.
And some African dudes just came to me one day and just said hi, and he looked like he was scared, and I was like, why? I guess I was much fitter then, and I used to wear much tighter clothes too, I guess. So I guess I was intimidated, but he just said hi, and he looked like he was making the head bow, and I was like, hey, what's good? Come down, what's up? And where you from? He said, Cameroon, and they pointed to a table. There were a bunch of them. I thought, oh, you all live here? I went and sat down with them, and that's how they introduced me to soccer players, volleyball players, and I was getting free tickets to go watch games.
Fantastic.
So I met a bunch of athletes living there, and I was like, wow, professional volleyball players. Okay, and that's how I got to meet people from different African countries and different parts of the world. And since I left there, I was like, oh man, I don't have any access to professional volleyball players anymore. Oh, that sucks. So I never thought about it that there was a professional league in America. I just assumed it was like, it's not like the big sports here.
Right.
So
Right.
it never dawned on me that it's like somebody telling me they play handball. I always just think about Europe, Africa, and
Right.
other places. And I don't
Right.
think about United States as a handball nation.
I mean, you have better established leagues in other countries, especially in Europe and Asia and South America.
Yes.
You have more established leagues where you make real money.
Yes. Yep.
And I have a bunch of my teammates have kind of gone and played in those especially the German leagues, the Russian leagues, Greece, Puerto Rico. I had friends who played in all those leagues.
Were you ever tempted to go there?
I was, but it would have taken a different level of commitment because I was able to do this while still pursuing my career in human resources.
Oh, okay.
So it was almost like I had two jobs.
Oh, wow.
Because it's the amount of commitment that would have taken to with practice and playing and preparation and traveling. It was enough as it was, but it would have been a better I would have had to put the HR career on hold
yeah.
to be able to do that.
Okay.
And I just wasn't willing to do that.
All right. So next time all right. So I'll add that to part two. Well, I will get more into the volleyball career.
There you go.
But that was for my special super listener, so she won't say, you did not ask more. So, I did it. I did it for you.
There you
So,
go.
all right, now back to the dancing question.
Yeah.
So everyone who gets to be on the podcast, as far as you're sitting down here, you automatically considered a dancer.
Mhm.
If you deny that you don't dance, we'll kick you out of the studio right now. We'll stop recording, kick you out.
Uh,
So we need you to provide us at least 3 artists that will keep you dancing for an hour. Don't worry, we're not making a video
mhm,
of you dancing right now,
mhm.
but you give us 3 artists, at least 3 artists. So since you have 3 countries that you that are tied to your childhood, you can give us either one from Zambia, Kenya, South Africa, or you can give us from Guyana and Saint Kitts, whichever way you want to do it. You can give us 5 even, but it's up to you. We'll let you play. You can give us one from Brooklyn. But there's a caveat. You can't give us the most popular names. I know people like to throw Nigerian artists. No, we're throwing that now. No, that's the twin people trying to no, you can't do that. You can't give us Jay-Z. That's no. I know it's from Brooklyn. Nope. You can't give us Big either. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So yeah, we want to discover some artists. So, yeah, we need to show Zambia some love. We need to show Kenya some love. South Africa, my piano is hot right now, so you can't give us black coffee either. I love black coffee, by the way. Yeah, he's my guy.
Right.
He's on multiple
talented.
playlists that I have. So yes. So you go ahead now.
That's good. That's a good question. I think, my favorite artist of all time, who I could listen to and dance to, forever, is Stevie Wonder. So he's definitely number one.
Yeah, we haven't had Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, he's definitely number one
That's
on the
a lot.
list. I'm a big Calypso fan. The Mighty Sparrow.
Hey.
It would definitely be up there. I do love Beanie Man. I do love Beanie Man. So I'd probably put him on that list.
Okay. Any Stevie Wonder, Beanie Man,
The Mighty Sparrow.
Mighty Sparrow. Any women from anywhere?
Any women?
I'm just trying to make it hard for you.
Any women from anywhere? I mean, you said no Beyonce, right?
Yeah. The people who are gonna start writing like, "Oh, you didn't allow me to put Beyonce." Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah. And you can add Rihanna too. I mean, her Super Bowl performance was awesome. But, yes.
Oh, you liked it, huh?
Oh, I liked it. I liked it so much that I didn't even realize she was pregnant. That's how you know that. That's how you know women are a weakness for me. And my wife was like, "Really? You didn't?" I was like, "Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I was." Yeah, that's how you know. That's how you know it was easy for women to get me at one point in time.
No,
That's why you can't allow me to be the tyrant that I once used to claim. I wanted to be like the Grand Supreme Leader of Africa. Yeah, that's my unofficial
aspiration.
Yeah, I will marry one wife from each African country. That's the way you just make me the general of Africa, then I have one wife from all the 54 countries.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I really like Rihanna. I really like her music. I didn't really love that performance. I was a little underwhelmed.
I mean, she's pregnant, man.
It wasn't about her being pregnant.
She's hanging up all the way up there. I mean,
that was impressive, but it wasn't about her being pregnant. It was just
and my daughter was doing the dances too. I was like, this girl can. I'm not a kid. I don't know.
Your daughter is talented.
She dances, sings, everything. I'm like, girl, don't make me turn into that parent. We're gonna be like, man, you know what? We're gonna start making that money right now.
Did she get it from you or your wife?
My wife might be like, let me not say it. Let me not answer that question.
We can move on.
All right. So You live in Brooklyn, in New York City.
Yes.
There's no way you don't like good food.
Love good food.
And you come from a multicultural background. When it comes to cuisine, where does your heart belong to? Your
Oh,
go-to cuisine right now.
West Indian, absolutely.
Mm.
Hands down.
But so what's the go-to? What's that one meal that you're gonna say you must have this? If you say, if you're gonna say you must have this, and it better not be beef patty. That's fine already.
No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, there's nothing beats a really good roti
Mm.
with a really good curry. I would maybe take either a curry goat or shrimp curry.
I've
Yeah.
had shrimp curry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I've had shrimp curry, but goat roti. That was actually the first. That was the first Caribbean meal I had in America.
There you go.
My other brother took me to some place in DC.
Mm.
It was my first weekend after I arrived, and I was like, "What is this?" He said, it's Jamaican food. I said, "Okay." I don't know if it's a Jamaican place even, but he said roti. I said roti. He said, "Which one do you want? Goat?" I said, goat meat? What? I was still on the mindset that you only eat goat meat on Christmas Day or Easter Day. Back then. That's what my mindset was. I was like, "Oh, it's not my birthday though."
Right.
Just order it with my friend. You're not in Nigeria anymore.
Right.
You want goat meat? You want goat roti? I say, okay, yes, if you're buying. I was like, wow, goat meat, and it's not my birthday.
What's funny, Jamaica's not really known for his roti.
I'm not sure it was a Jamaican place.
Oh, okay.
With what I know now,
Yeah.
I just can't remember the name of the place.
Okay.
Yeah, but now
Probably a West Indian place.
Yeah, it's a West Indian place.
Yeah.
But with the basic information that I had back then, I just assumed Jamaican.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way we all thought Sebastian on The Little Mermaid was Jamaican until someone told me no, he wasn't. He's from Trinidad. I was like, oh.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have a Jamaican accent.
We all thought he was Jamaican. Oh my goodness!
I know most people think that. Yeah. Wow.
I was in Nigeria then, and we all just said, "Oh, that guy is Jamaican."
Well, that's what everyone knows. So that's what they assume. Yeah.
Good roti. Did you have a particular spot, favorite spot in the area?
You know what's funny? I have yet to find a really good place. I've been looking, I've been experimenting, and it's been tough to find that, I guess, place that has the good roti as well as the good curry.
They don't have both together.
Right.
Oh.
So I've been struggling a little bit, which is really surprising me, especially because I'm so close to Flatbush.
Mm-hmm.
I found some places with some good curry, and I found some places with some decent roti, but not a combination of both.
Interesting.
But I haven't given up yet.
All right. If you see it, let me know.
Absolutely.
So I go try it.
Yeah.
All right. So, final question: what would you like to leave the audience with? It's your freestyle moment.
Well, it's a pleasure being here. I think that I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate. I think people's stories are important, especially people who've traveled and experienced different cultures, and people who come from different backgrounds. I think there's not enough of understanding of other people. I think especially people I've encountered here, are not exposed or don't try to be exposed to other cultures enough, and I think, as they always say, that you're always afraid of things that you don't understand.
Yeah.
But having an appreciation, I think traveling it's something that is critical for every human being to do. And I've been privileged and very lucky that I've been able, that I grew up traveling, and I still continue to travel as much as I can. because it's a special kind of education. Traveling is something that is priceless when it comes to educating humans. So yeah, I would say that.
Thank you, and I agree. Yeah, it's a privilege, and that's why I like to let people travel through the words of the guests who are on this program. And yeah, I always encourage people who have the opportunity to travel, meet other people, encounter and experience the world out there, and realize that you're not alone,
Yep.
and learn. Be open to learning. You know. So we appreciate you. Thank you for giving us your time. And final thing, please plug in. Let people know how they can get in touch with you, and please plug yourself in.
Absolutely. Run a consulting firm, RH1 Consulting. We help companies to improve their HR processes and strategies. RH1consulting.com. And we are based here in Manhattan, but we have clients all over the country, and we've recently acquired some international clients. We help your companies to grow and scale more effectively and run more efficiently, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. And we customize our approach to the specific client, so we don't have a one broad stroke, one size fits all type of mentality. We don't do that. We customize our approach to the specific client to help them to succeed, to help them to grow. RH1 Consulting, Marcus Haynes.
Awesome. So you'll have the link in the show notes, and I'll make sure it's everywhere, and you can get in touch with Marcus. I'll make sure I have all that available to you, listeners. And yeah, please reach out to Marcus. Awesome guy and awesome individual. Alrighty, so we'll see you next week. Be awesome. Keep supporting us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you haven't downloaded the app, please do so. Join us on Patreon. We need support. We need to grow our team, and yeah, support independent podcasters. Thank you for the privilege of your company.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to White Label American. If you enjoy the show, we'll appreciate if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. If you have any questions, comments, or have someone who will be a good guest on the show, or you want to be on the show, send us a message at whitelabelamerican@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at White Label American. Thank you for your support.